When a white manager denies a black COS card 4.5B deal cancelled in a shocking twist. The air crackled with tension in that high-rise conference room. The sleek glass walls reflected the unease, the hush of disbelief hanging thick as everyone absorbed what had just unfolded. Miles Johnson, a powerhouse with years of corporate triumph on his resume, stood frozen, his perfectly tailored suit a stark contrast to the chaos bubbling beneath the surface. The manager's dismissive wave, as if brushing aside a fly, sent shockwaves through everyone present. The murmur spread quicker than wildfire, eyebrows raising, heads turning. Miles had prepared a groundbreaking deal, a deal that could change the landscape of their industry forever. But in one careless motion, a casual flick of a wrist, it all unraveled. The card, the simple piece of plastic that represented years of hard work and achievement, was waved away like it was nothing. Who did this manager think he was? The room was silent. The weight of thousands of dreams cascaded down around them. An observer could almost hear the collective gasp, like a chorus of disbelief vibrating against the sterile walls. The deeper implications roared in anyone's mind like a freight train, turning a misstep into a scandal. A soft murmur broke the tension. Did he just? And just like that, the CEO's heart sank. Miles felt a tightness creeping into his chest, the lump forming in his throat, choking him as anger twisted through his gut. Was he really about to let everything crumble because of one man's arrogance? Hey, before we continue with this amazing story, I need to give you an important heads up. Many subscribers have reported that YouTube unsubscribed them without warning. Take a quick second to check the red button below to make sure you're still subscribed to the channel. I'd hate for you to miss any of the exclusive content coming soon. And while you're there, smash that like button, it really helps me out with the algorithm. Oh, and tell me in the comments, which city are you watching from? I love getting to know every amazing person who's part of this community. Your participation makes all the difference. Let's connect. Back in the room, whispers turned to murmurs, hands shifted nervously in pockets, and eyes darted around, as if everyone hoped someone else would take charge. Then came the unexpected. The towering CFO, a woman known for her staunch resolve, stood up with fire in her eyes. This isn't just about a card, she asserted, her voice booming like thunder. It's about respect. About years of blood, sweat, and tears. Her words charged the air, swirling like a storm. Suddenly the atmosphere shifted. With hearts thumping loud enough to hear, they awaited Miles's next move. Would he walk away, swallowed by pride, or would he step into the storm, ready to fight? The stakes couldn't be higher, lives and careers teetering on his next decision. The clock ticked loudly, each second feeling like an eternity. What would he choose? Would this moment ignite a revolution or spark a downward spiral? As everyone leaned in, breath held tight in their chests, the suspense was palpable, almost suffocating. What would happen next? The answer lay just a heartbeat away. Miles could feel the tension in his bones. The CFO's fiery words hung in the air like a heavy fog, thickening with every passing moment. This wasn't just about the deal. It was about something deeper and far more personal. His fingers clenched into fists at his side, and the pulse in his temples throbbed a relentless beat of frustration and humiliation. As if sensing the shift, the manager leaned back in his chair, an unsettling smirk plastered on his face, as if he relished the moment. Who did he think he was? A petty king ruling over this kingdom of glass and steel? The anger twisted deeper inside Miles like a snake ready to strike. Miles, are you okay? A trembling voice broke through the vortex of thoughts. Angela, his right-hand woman, spoke up, her brow furrowed with worry. She had always stood by him, knowing the weight he carried. In that instant, their eyes met, two souls connected by a shared understanding of the battle ahead. Do I look okay? Miles shot back, his voice edged with bitterness. He hated to snap at her, but the venom seeped through. It felt like a fist lashing out at injustice. The murmurs grew louder, the crowd around them inching closer, eyes wide with anticipation. They were waiting, wanting him to respond. They wanted a hero now more than ever. Listen, he began, his voice steadying as he faced the room. The shadows of doubt transformed into resolve. This is not just business. What just happened challenges everything we've worked for. He took a step forward, his voice rising with every word, like a wave building strength. This company stands for diversity and inclusion. If we lose sight of that, what are we fighting for? The CFO nodded vigorously, her fire igniting again. You have to stand up for this. For all of us. Miles could feel the shift in the room. It wasn't just about him anymore. It was about every single one of them. He could see others in the crowd reacting, murmurs turning into shouts of agreement, voices overlapping, the humanity connecting them all. But then, like a jolt to the heart, the manager's expression morphed from amusement to anger. You think this is a joke? This is business, not a charity event. His voice cut through the cheering crowd, slicing through their unity, attempting to pull them back into his shadow of dominance. Business is about people, Miles countered, each word landing like a hammer. You can't put profits over values. Change is happening whether you like it or not. As the roar of applause filled the room, Miles's heart raced. This was it. He was either going to break through the dark or spiral down into chaos. But the manager, eyes narrowing, grasped for control. You want to make a scene? Fine. I'll make sure this deal is on my terms or we walk away altogether. Silence fell again, the weight of his threat heavy in the air, smothering the newfound courage floating around. Miles's heart plummeted. He felt the chaos swirling again. Could he risk it all? Was he prepared to face the consequences of this fight? He felt the eyes of the room shift, some filled with hope, others with fear. The danger was real and it was palpable. Do you have the guts? Miles whispered to himself, close to breaking, emotions swirling within him like a tornado. Suddenly, a loud bang echoing from the corner of the conference room shattered the moment. A cutting noise that drew everyone's attention. What had happened? Miles's gut twisted tighter. And just like that, a new tension filled the air. Miles turned his head sharply toward the source of the noise. It had sounded like something heavy being dropped, creating a ripple of confusion throughout the room. The conversation halted. Eyes darted. Whispers transformed into nervous giggles and hushed murmurings. Angela's hand gripped Miles's arm, her nails digging into his flesh, conveying both fear and alarm. The energy shifted again, fear replaced empowerment. The manager's smirk vanished entirely, replaced by a hardened expression of uncertainty. Is everyone okay? Someone from the back of the room called out, their voice trembling slightly amidst the tension. Just check it out, the manager barked, his authority faltering. But there was no one willing to rush to the corner. The air grew thicker, like a pressure cooker staved of steam. It was clear everyone recognized something had gone terribly wrong. Miles turned fully, steeling himself against the sudden unease that engulfed everyone. Angela, stay with me, he whispered, keeping his voice low. Her wide eyes reflected not only fear but also a flicker of determination, as if she too understood the stakes. As they inched closer to the corner, something glinted on the floor, fragments of shattered glass. A half-filled glass tumbler dripped liquid that pooled on the floor, reflecting the fluorescent lights like broken stars scattered across a dark sky. With each step, more pieces of the puzzle came into view. A small section of the boardroom table was chipped and splintered, raw wood exposed like an open wound. Who the hell knocked that over? The manager growled, looking for a scapegoat. But as Miles crouched down, his heart sank. This isn't just an accident. He felt the pulse of urgency inside him. The familiar tang of fear coiled around his chest. Instinctively, his eyes scanned the crowd. He noticed Josh, the new sales rep, standing motionless, his face ashen. The kid had been trying too hard to connect, and now chaos seemed to twist the screws in his brain. Miles caught his eye. Memories of their last conversation echoed in his mind. Josh had mentioned feeling like an outsider, struggling to fit in. Did you see who did this? Miles called out, his tone direct, drawing everyone's attention to the young man. Despite the pressure bearing down on him, Josh shook his head slowly. I didn't see, he stammered, but I heard them talking about the deal. A chill shot through Miles. The thought that someone might have intentionally sabotaged the moment caused a surge of rage mixed with despair. Does anyone know what they were saying? Who? Nobody answered. The silence was deafening, punctuated by the soft sounds of footsteps approaching the glass. No one wanted to step forward. Everyone was too afraid. Fear had paralyzed them. Suddenly, the manager rolled his eyes, dismissing the concerns like flies buzzing around his head. This is ridiculous. Focus on the deal, people. Miles, we need to do something, Angela urged, leaning closer. Her voice trembled, but determination flared in her eyes. He nodded, feeling a mix of helplessness and burning motivation. This was no longer just about him fighting for values. It felt like the room was teetering on the edge of a cliff, ready to plunge into chaos. Just then a low voice broke through the thick tension. Or maybe it's time we all take a step back. Miles recognized the voice, low and confident. It belonged to Naomi, the HR director. She had a reputation for being a calming force, but her words didn't feel like comfort now. Steps echoed around the room, the weight of uncertainty deepening. Miles felt a cold bead of sweat trickle down the back of his neck. What were they stepping back from? With the stakes rising, he wondered. Could this chaos unravel their fight for values? Or was it the catalyst for a stronger unity among them? And as the crowd shifted, another revelation awaited them all, tied to the shocking twist about to unfold. Are we prepared for what comes next? Miles thought, dread threading deep within him, believing moments like these held the power to reshape their futures or destroy them entirely. The tension in the room thickened further, almost palpable as anxious whispers filled the air. Naomi's calm facade betrayed an undercurrent of unease that crackled with every word she spoke. What if we're not just dealing with a clumsy mistake? She asked, her gaze drifting towards the shattered glass. Maybe someone is trying to sabotage this deal. The murmurs intensified. Were they really on the brink of something dark? Miles felt his legs shake beneath him. This wasn't a corporate meeting anymore, it was a gathering veiled in hostility and mistrust. Angela's grip on his arm tightened even more, her eyes searching his face for answers. Miles, we need to know what's really going on, she urged, her voice barely above a whisper. Agreed, he replied, swallowing hard. But how do we find out without sounding paranoid? Before he could finish, the door swung open with a jarring force. Everyone turned, silence falling like a heavy curtain. Standing in the doorway was Brad, the accountant, his shirt creased and panic-stricken. Sweat slicked his brow as he stumbled in, almost as if he'd just run a marathon. Guys, you have to hear this, he blurted out, panting. While I was out checking the files, I overheard something. It sounded serious. What did you hear? Naomi pressed, stepping forward. Brad shot a glance around the room, gauging the expressions on their faces. There are rumors going around that someone wants to cancel the deal entirely. They think it could be a perfect opportunity for a hostile takeover. He gasped, his breath hitching as he spoke. Chaos erupted. Miles felt his heart race, an adrenaline cocktail coursing through his veins. Who is spreading these rumors? He demanded, each word spilling out like a bullet. I don't know, Brad stammered, shaking his head. But if they can sabotage this meeting, they might think they can take control of everything. For a moment the group fell silent, the weight of realization washing over them. This wasn't just floor gossip. This could be a calculated effort to tear their company apart. Miles was flung into a whirlwind of thoughts. Alliances were in danger, friendships could shatter, but more importantly, their futures hung in the balance. Everyone listen up, Miles shouted, trying to rally the crowd. The strength of this team depends on us working together. Let us not allow fear to dictate our actions. The room buzzed with uncertainty. He glanced at Josh, who sat hunched over, visibly shaken. If this is true, we need to find a way to unite against it, Miles continued, a fire igniting in his belly. We can't let anyone tear us apart. We need to ask questions, be proactive. Again uncertainty crept in, a dark shadow settling over them. Angela leaned closer, her voice almost a whisper. What if it's someone in this room? That thought hit like a punch to the gut. Everyone turned to look at one another through a haze of suspicion. What if the saboteur was one of their own? Do you think someone here is trying to hurt us? Josh's voice trembled as he finally found his words. We can't rule it out, Miles replied, searching faces filled with fright and doubt. Each worried glance felt like a dagger to his heart, the foundations of trust quivering under the strain of panic. The atmosphere turned electric with an unknown danger, and they could all sense it. The walls of unity began to cave in. Maybe taking a step back isn't such a bad idea after all, Naomi uttered slowly, a hint of trepidation lacing her tone. As the room filled with a frigid silence, Miles felt his chest constrict. Tonight's not just about the deal anymore, he thought, his mind racing. This is about survival. Just then the lights flickered, and a chilling voice sliced through the tension. Will you all still be here when the truth comes crashing down? Everyone turned toward the source, their eyes wide in astonishment, hearts pounding. Who had just spoken and what truth were they hinting at? The dread that clung to Miles intensified as he wondered what would come next. What if the most shocking twists hadn't even been revealed yet? A deafening silence enveloped the room as the voice lingered like the last note of a haunting melody. The atmosphere was thick with disbelief, as if time had stopped. Miles searched the faces around him, eyes wide with confusion and fear. Who had spoken? Each person held a secret, an accusation forming in their minds like an unspoken thought bubble hovering over their heads. Who said that? He demanded, his voice careful yet trembling with urgency. A shuffling noise at the back drew their attention. It was Tara, the PR specialist, her face a mask of shock. That was someone with the voice of she couldn't finish, and the realization hung in the air like a heavy fog. They exchanged glances, skepticism mixing with dread. Was the threat real? Or was it a calculated attempt to further fracture their fragile unity? To Miles it felt like a pressure cooker about to explode. Maybe it wasn't just an accident. Angela spoke slowly, her words carrying the weight of a new realization. What if it's a warning? What if someone knows more than we do? The room erupted again, voices overlapping in a chaotic rush. Everyone was talking over each other. The tensions ignited like dry kindling. We need to investigate who was really behind the voice, shouted Brad, panic and determination evoking his adrenaline. Better yet, we should confront the saboteur among us. Miles stepped forward as his heart hammered against his ribcage. Paranoia will not solve this. We need transparency. Can we trust each other enough to keep this deal alive? What's left of our trust? Josh burst out, his voice cracking. If you ask me, we should protect ourselves. We could be talking about our jobs, our lives. A chill ran through Miles, resonating with Josh's explosive words. They weren't just fighting for a deal. They were fighting for their identities and futures. Was it time for loyalty to take a back seat to self-preservation? Naomi's voice cut through the chaos. Can we focus? We can't lose this deal. Not now. If we're going to figure this out, we need a clear plan. But how do we even start? Brad sounded defeated, glancing nervously at the door, as if the true enemy would come bursting in at any moment. With a deliberate breath, Miles steadied his voice. I suggest we split up. Identify who was with us in those critical moments. Strip away pretense. He paused, taking in the sweaty faces, the wide eyes. We can either unravel together, or we can fight to keep this company intact. But we can't delay. An uncomfortable quiet filled the room as his words echoed. Then slowly nods appeared, hesitant but growing stronger, as confidence brewed in the aftermath of fear. Fine, Naomi said, determination returning. But I want to know where we're all going. No secrets after this. As they started to discuss their potential roles, the flickering lights gave one last, ominous flash before plunging them into complete darkness. Muted gasps of shock filled the room. Everything fell silent. The only sound was a low hum, like an impending storm brewing, ready to unleash. Okay, this isn't funny, Miles shouted, anxiety creeping into the edges of his words as he felt his heart race again. Someone go check the generator. The room was split between those who scrambled for reassurance and the ones frozen in fear. Then, just as abruptly, light returned, illuminating their scattered and frightened faces, but there in the corner was something that hadn't been there before, a folder, ominously placed and marked with the name of their deal. Tension pricked at the back of Miles' neck. What secrets did it hold? Should we open it? Someone whispered, the air crackling with anxious anticipation. Miles hesitated, the weight of every eye bearing down on him. What if this was the revelation they had all feared? What if these pages contained the truth that could shatter everything? With a deep breath, he reached for the folder. As fingers brushed the edges, he felt the world grow quieter around him. What lay within could change everything. The moment the folder cracked open, the air felt charged, like the tense stillness before a storm. Miles pulled back the first page, heart pounding. The typewritten words seemed to leap off the paper, stark and unyielding. It wasn't just documents but an arsenal of accusations, emails, recordings, and photographs, each one more incriminating than the last. Is that? Tara trailed off, her voice barely a whisper, eyes wide. Yeah, it looks like evidence, Miles replied, swallowing hard. Evidence against us. His hands shook slightly as he flipped through the pages. Every detail painted a darker picture than he had imagined. Breaches of trust, accusations of sabotage, and a name he didn't expect to see splashed across the headline. Cameron Wright, the lucrative tech CEO whose interest had once seemed a golden ticket to their company's success. The room erupted again. A cacophony of disbelief and horror. "This can't be real," screamed Angela, glancing at the documents with growing dread. "Cameron would never wouldn't he?" Brad interjected, shaking his head. "If he's involved, if he's behind this, everything is at stake." Naomi's features hardened, determination etched into her brow as she stepped forward. "We can't let this ruin us. If there's a way to prove these are fabricated, or if we can confront him directly." Josh's eyes flickered with fear and anger. "We can't let him control the narrative. We have to take this back." Miles felt a knot tighten in his stomach. Confrontation? Each passing second brought danger closer, as shadows of betrayal danced on the walls of their fragile trust. But who could they trust? The panic that had been simmering now boiled over, and accusations started flying like the spark of a match against gasoline. "You think I'm involved?" Tara snapped, her voice rising in pitch. "I'm just trying to hold this together." "Maybe you're part of it," Josh retorted, eyes flashing. Brad stepped in aggressively. "Stop. Pointing fingers won't help. This is bad enough." As the shouts grew louder, Miles slammed the folder shut, his voice cutting through the chaos. "Enough. We need to think clearly. If Cameron is indeed behind this, we need a plan, not chaos." "Plan? What plan?" echoed Naomi, frustration spilling over. "We're caught in a web of deceit. We need to escape it. Then let us expose him before we drown in it." The resolve in Miles' voice surprised even him, a steely determination breaking through the fear. "We'll approach this together or not at all. We need to gather intel, find out what he knows. We make it clear we will not be pawns in this game." The tension wavered as they all caught a glimpse of the shadow looming larger outside their fragile circle of trust. With every heartbeat, it felt like a decision. This would either bring them closer together or shatter them completely. "No more secrets," Tara whispered. "We need to know if any of us have been compromised." Just as they began to make a tentative plan, a knock echoed through the room, sharp and threatening. Time seemed to freeze again. Who could that be? Miles wondered aloud, dread pooling in his stomach. A moment later, the door creaked open slightly, revealing a figure silhouetted against the dim light. It was difficult to see, but the glint of a badge flashed ominously. "FBI. Everyone stay where you are." Fear surged like a tidal wave, crashing over them. They had crossed a line, and now they were trapped, their secrets laid bare. Miles' pulse raced. What does this mean for them? Caught between the unknown and their own betraying shadows. He realized this was just the beginning. The air felt electric, a jolt of fear and uncertainty spreading through the group as they stared at the FBI agent standing in the doorway. The badge gleamed under the flickering fluorescent light, a beacon of authority that hung heavy in the silence. "FBI?" Miles echoed stupidly, as if repeating the words might somehow change reality. The agent's cold stare swept over them, assessing, judging. "Step away from the table," the agent commanded, voice steady but with an edge of urgency. "Hands where I can see them." Panic erupted. Tara's chair crashed backward as she stood, and Angela clutched her chest. Naomi almost tripped over her own feet in a desperate attempt to comply. They were simple tech developers, not criminals, at least not yet. Their minds raced frantically. "What's this about?" Josh asked, trying to maintain his composure as fear clawed at his throat. "Enough questions." The agent's tone left no room for negotiation. "We have reason to believe you're involved in serious criminal activities regarding corporate information theft." The word theft echoed in Miles' mind. Betrayal unfurled like a dark flower blooming in the pit of his stomach. They were not just fighting against a deceitful CEO. They were now suspects in a federal investigation. "No," Miles protested, his voice capturing a mix of disbelief and anger. "We're innocent. We didn't do anything wrong." The agent stepped forward, firmly planted. "Innocence isn't determined until the investigation is complete. Given the documents we have, we expect cooperation." An unsteady silence swept the room, constricting around them like a vice. Miles exchanged glances with his team, the weight of hidden truths emerging in every flicker of their eyes. Could betrayal lie among them? He recalled Tara's accusatory stare. The fissures in their trust fracturing even deeper. Who could he rely on now? Do we need a lawyer? Naomi blurted, her voice shaking as her brow furrowed. That was the first sign they had hit a legal boundary. Paranoia clawed at them. The agent was unyielding. That's wise. But before you speak with anyone, I need to ask you a few questions. As the interrogative barrage began, Miles' heart raced into overdrive. Each question felt like a noose tightening around their necks, pulling their uncertainty closer and closer into a suffocating truth. They needed a plan, and quick. This could wipe out everything they'd worked for. Where were you on the night of the meeting with Cameron Wright? The agent asked, eyes narrowing on Miles. That seemingly simple inquiry struck like lightning. Miles hesitated, the memories flooding back. Cameron's charming smile. The way he had promised them the world. Had Cameron set them up? It suddenly felt all too clear. Their meeting had been too smooth, too perfect. Miles started, but the memories shifted into a fog, intertwining with the cold dread crystallizing in his gut. Did they even know what they'd walked into? Hours passed like minutes as the questions continued, each one a slow unraveling of their fragmenting reality. A daze of doubt coated the room. Every individual grew distant. Their fears spiraled around them like whispers in a storm. Then, just as the weight at the center of the chaos felt almost unbearable, blotting out hope, the agent spoke again. One last thing, who else have you shared your plans with? It was a simple query, but the implications felt catastrophic. Could one of them have leaked information? Had trust shattered so completely that it now threatened to swallow them whole? Miles felt his breath hitch, the fraying thread of loyalty stretching thinner. The tension rippled, everything depended on their next move. As the room held its breath, the agent stepped back, surveying them once more. Think carefully about your next words. Your lives may depend on it. Miles' heart skipped. This was about more than just their future, it was now a matter of survival. The realization hit hard. Someone in that room might already know far more than they were letting on. And the worst part? Time was running out. Miles' mind raced as the agent's words hung in the air like a heavy fog. The reality of their situation was shifting. No longer were they just innocent developers caught in a corporate power play. Now they were suspects, players in a game far more dangerous than they had bargained for. A bead of sweat trickled down the back of Miles's neck. He dared to look around, and the expressions around the table were a mirror of his own horror. Tara's eyes were wide, her lips pressed into a thin line. Naomi appeared pale, her hands trembling as she clenched the edge of the table like it was a lifeline. Angela was biting her lip, a futile attempt to contain the fear that had settled deep within. Time's wasting. People, the agent urged, cutting through the tension. Someone in this room knows something. Miles fought the impulse rising within him to lash out. Did they really think one of them had turned? His heart pounded harder, the thudding like a sinister drum against the backdrop of their mounting panic. Think about it, the agent continued, pacing slowly. You had a successful pitch with Wright. You had access to sensitive data. You were all in the same room, all with something to gain. Someone could needed a nudge to spill secrets. Miles couldn't bear the thought. We're a team, he shouted, conviction breaking through the chaos. We risked everything together. Why would any of us do that to each other? Yes, why? Tara echoed, but the crack in her voice couldn't hide the doubt creeping in. The shadows between them had expanded, distrust clawing at the edges of their history. How easily could it unravel? There was a flicker in the agent's eyes, a hint of sardonic amusement, as if he were enjoying a twisted show. Isn't he that the question? What if, for one of you, the prize was too tempting? Silence fell. The group shared furtive glances, processing the implication. Could they all trust each other? Could they even trust the agent? But before fear could rip through them, the agent pressed on. I know you've been working late hours, contacting that's none of your business. Josh interjected, his voice rising, a storm cloud of irritation mingling with panic. This is a witch hunt. The agent's hardened gaze settled on him. You think so? Then I suggest you start talking and make sure the truth doesn't bury you. I swear we're innocent, Naomi exclaimed, desperation lacing her voice. We can prove it. You can't just enough. The agent barked, a sudden shift in his demeanor making the tension palpable. What if I told you that someone already made a deal to save themselves? The words hung like a ghost in the room. Miles's stomach churned as a chill ran down his spine. His thoughts raced. Could they have a mole? Betrayal from within? Panic surged to the surface and Miles rose abruptly, raking a hand through his hair. Wait, he whispered, the realization dawning slowly. If we have a leak, then we need to find out before it's too late. The agent's piercing look softened slightly. Now you're thinking clearly. Someone is in deeper than you know. And they're willing to do whatever it takes to save their skin. Desperation ignited a spark within Miles. He could sense the urgency. They had to come together, strategize, and figure out who would stoop so low. Think, he urged, his voice low but alive with fury. What do we know about the others? We've mentioned our plans to. But just as they started to articulate their thoughts, a loud crash echoed from the door, reverberating through the nearly empty office. The agent's head snapped around. What was that? Before anyone could respond, the power flickered, and the lights went out entirely, plunging the room into pitch blackness. Miles's mind went blank, the unknown pressing down around them like drowning water. Where were they? Who had just entered? Was this the help they needed, or was it the final blow? Heart pounding, Miles clutched the edge of the table. Get down, he urged as he felt the tension snap like a taut wire. The sounds of footsteps, hard, deliberate, stirred outside the door. No one moved. All they could do was hold their breath and pray. Then came a voice, smooth and confident in the dark. Looking for me? In that moment, Miles realized the investigation was taking an even darker turn, and the secrets they thought were safe were about to unfurl in the worst possible way. A shiver coursed through him as everything spiraled towards a dreadful truth. Who had really been working with Cameron Wright? The room vibrated with a silence that was impossible to escape. The smooth voice lingered in the air, heavy and charged with malevolence as each of their hearts raced like drumbeats in the dark. Who are you? Miles managed to stammer, the tremor in his voice revealing just how vulnerable he felt. Who I am isn't nearly as important as what I can do for you or to you, the voice replied, dripping with a chilling confidence that sent icy fingers down Miles's spine. He could almost feel the tension in the air coiling tighter, a constrictor closing around them. Angela's whisper sliced through the dark. What do you want? I'm here to make sure that things don't get out of hand. You've stumbled into quite the mess, haven't you? The voice taunted, reverberating off the barren walls, reinforcing their isolation. Miles couldn't see anything, but the sound of shifting footsteps indicated the figure was moving closer. It wasn't just a voice. It was threatening and manipulative, every syllable charged with an unspoken menace. Listen, we don't want any trouble, Naomi said, her voice quavering but carrying residual strength. There was a pause and Miles imagined her holding her breath, a fragile bubble of defiance amid the darkness. Trouble? Oh, but you're already in it, the stranger chuckled. And I happen to know a few things about those secrets lurking in this very room. A spotlight cut into Miles's mind, illuminating the gnawing doubt that had taken root since the agent's accusations. Did this figure know their secrets? Had someone already spoken? An avalanche of paranoia washed over him, drowning his resolve. The lights flickered briefly before plunging them into darkness once more sinister than before. And then a sudden clatter erupted, a heavy object hitting the floor. Panic gripped them as the sound echoed like a gunshot, demanding attention, forcing them to confront their growing fear of betrayal. Down! Miles gasped, instinctively shielding Naomi, despite the dark confusion surrounding them. The air was thick and oppressive, amplifying the fear that swelled within each of them. Enough games! The voice commanded, now thunderous, reverberating with authority that pierced through the chilling fog of uncertainty. One of you has a choice to make. Can you guess whose betrayal opened this dreadful door? Miles's throat went dry. He felt the fear pulsing around him, binding each of them together with concern. No, this is insane. He shouted into the void, a desperate plea. We are a team. We can't let this drive us apart. The figure chuckled lightly, a sound that settled uncomfortably in their ears. Unity, a powerful sentiment. But sentimental ideals crumble fast when survival is at stake. The silence returned, smothering them like a heavy blanket. Then, just as quickly as it had begun, the voice softened. I can offer you salvation, perhaps even wealth beyond your imagination, but you must decide whom you trust. Tara's breathing became erratic, matching the heightened tension in the room. "Why should we trust you?" she challenged, but doubt clung to her words, an echo of the disintegrating faith they had in each other. "Because I'm your only way out." The lights blinked back on, flooding the room with harsh brightness, illuminating their faces. Miles squinted, momentarily blinded, before catching sight of the agent at the door, looking shocked and bewildered. "Stay back," Miles warned, raising a hand to shield the chaos around them. "Haven't you heard?" The figure laughed, now visible, a tall silhouette cloaked in shadow and power. "The real danger is already among you." As the realization seeped into them, twisting the very fabric of their unity, a chill raced through Miles's veins. Was one of them the enemy? And what if their greatest threat wasn't he outside, but right there within the group? The agent locked eyes with Miles, determination flaring in his gaze, but before he could speak, the figure snapped his fingers. The lights abruptly dimmed again, washing the room in a sinister gloom. "Choose wisely," echoed the figure, his laughter trailing off as he slipped back into the shadows. An icy dread settled in Miles's heart. One question burned like a brand in his mind. Would they survive this betrayal together or alone? Through the growing shadows, the stakes rose unmistakably higher, and with their very futures hanging in the balance, Miles now understood. They had mere moments to uncover the truth or risk losing everything. Would he find the mole before it was too late? The tension in the room was palpable, a taut wire strumming the nerves of everyone present. The shadows that had once felt reassuring now felt claustrophobic, looming. Miles Johnson stood at the helm, his heart hammering with an urgency that demanded action. As eyes darted around the room, fear and uncertainty mingled like a volatile cocktail. "Listen," he commanded, forcing calm into his rising panic. "We'll find out who the mole is. The first step is transparency. No one leaves this room until we figure this out." Angela's eyes widened, a mix of fear and admiration. "But how do we even start?" she asked, her brow knitted tightly. "Trust is the first casualty of suspicion," Miles replied, taking a deep breath. "Let us lay our cards on the table. Who's had contact with Cameron after the last pitch?" The silence that followed felt electric, charged with revelation and potential betrayal. Finally, Naomi broke the stillness. "I spoke to him last week about the tech upgrade. I thought it was standard." Tara swallowed hard. "Me too. He wanted insights on our software. He seemed genuinely interested in collaborating." Doubt tinged her voice, each word like a dagger. "You were the last ones who spoke to him," Miles observed, each word a stepping stone leading them toward the truth. "Any one of you could be compromised." Josh's voice trembled as he tried to steady the escalating tension. "That's not fair. We were just developing business. Isn't that what they all claim?" the agent retorted, equally drawn into the whirlwind of accusations. "Stop," Miles interjected. "We need to focus on what matters." Through the fog of accusations, Miles felt a spark inside him, a burgeoning resolve. "We need to unite, not divide. If Cameron did this, he's playing us against each other. We can't let him win." A murmur of agreement rose among the individuals, as if igniting a fire that had been smoldering under layers of doubt. As teammates began to gear up for a serious discussion, a reluctant camaraderie began to form, woven through shared anxiety and determination. "And what if we set a trap?" the agent suggested, the corner of his lips twitching slightly. "Let him think he still has control. We need to lure him in to expose the mole." "How?" Miles asked, the rush of adrenaline coursing through him. "Let us organize a meeting," Naomi proposed, stealing her voice. "We can fake a project pitch. We'll draw him in while we watch for anyone acting suspiciously." The feeling in the room shifted from despair to cautious determination. Everyone nodded, resolve rooting itself beneath their fear. But as plans unfolded, the atmosphere morphed again. They had to consider the weaknesses inside their circle. "We need someone on the inside too. Someone we can trust," Tara began, scanning the others intently. "I can do it," Josh interjected, voice steadying. "I can watch for any strange behavior from the sales team. I know them best." "Holding hands or pointing fingers won't do us any good at this point," Miles warned. "Stay focused, no disunity. Let us not forget to document everything," the agent added, shifting the spotlight back on their shared mission. "Any contact, any word from Cameron should be logged. If the truth comes to light, it's going to be messy." We're talking about potential legal ramifications. Miles felt a tightening knot in his stomach. We have to keep it together until we get to Cameron. They dispersed to carry out their roles, a sense of urgency driving every step. Each step felt like a potential misstep, but unity weaving through shards of uncertainty held them steady. Hours passed in anticipation and anxiety, the shadows deepening around them. The room emptied as they plotted their next move, the lights flickering softly like pulses of a looming heart, echoing the tension beneath the surface. When the time finally arrived for the meeting with Cameron, the air buzzed with apprehension. They faced the boardroom like warriors ready for battle, believing they had forged a new strength. As the minutes ticked down, Miles felt a swell of determination. He knew they were vulnerable but also recognized how much they stood to gain. Then, with an air of practiced charm, Cameron walked in, a confident grin plastered across his face. "I see you're still standing impressive," he smirked, shifting his gaze, weighing their reactions. "Heard there were some issues with the deal. I'd hate for anything to slip through the cracks. Wrong place, wrong time." That chill ran down Miles's spine, the confirmation of everything they had suspected hanging like an executioner's blade. He couldn't let fear or doubt consume him. "Cameron," he began, voice steady, "we need to talk about what happened at the last meeting." Everything hung in the balance. Would they expose the truth, or would something deeper fracture them? As the tension thickened with every passing moment, Miles realized they had already taken the first step, a step toward redemption in a world that had tried to tear them apart. Finally, he let a small smile break the intensity. "You've underestimated us, and now it's your turn to listen." As the confrontation unfolded, the group for once felt like a relentless storm, ready to confront the turbulence, knowing that their survival, their truth, was united. This is where the story began, and with newfound strength, it's where they would finally see it through to the end. Now that you've reached the climax of this thrilling ride, it's time to plow ahead and support this channel. You need to subscribe now so you don't miss the next exclusive stories. Smash that like button to feed the algorithm and show your love. Flood the comments section with your reactions and theories about this wild tale. Don't wait even one more second to share this video with at least 5 friends who absolutely need to see this conclusion. Your participation is crucial. Let us build this amazing community together.